City Skylines II released 2 years ago, to mixed reviews. Upon its second anniversary, I decided to revisit this game, hoping perhaps that the developers' toil had sown some fruit of their labor, and that 2 years had not gone to waste. The first question I wanted answered is, has performance improved? The first thing I noticed upon loading up those old save files was to be greeted by the same lackluster performance which plagued me on release. So here we are, loaded into Nefarious Shire, however you'd like to pronounce that. We're getting a wonderful 17-20 FPS here. Very nice, very smooth experience. This is exactly what you want when you're playing a game. This is the first ever city I built in this game. Things are going very well. There are no people complaining whatsoever. Ignore these. But as you can tell, yeah, the performance isn't great. If you load up on a brand new map, I get like 70, 80 frames per second, but that goes down pretty quickly. As soon as you start getting to like 30,000, 40,000 population, it starts getting choppy. So that's not great. That's definitely giving me one negative point. Lag in city builders is to be expected, especially as the computer is expected to handle the daily routines of hundreds of thousands of simulacrum. Although it has improved drastically since release, where a field of grass would get you a generous 20 frames per second, it is what I would generously call barely playable. Any city above a decent size will get very choppy, which may be a little surprising given the next point. One of the main criticisms you will see of City Skylines 2 is of the economic simulation. City Skylines 2 key feature and improvement over City Skyline 1 is a more complex and realistic simulation of the economy. Without getting into all the details, it is essentially all smoke and mirrors. The math behind the simulation has been reworked numerous times without much change, and as others have concluded, goods and people essentially teleport around the map, which is a huge negative for those of us trying to create a realistic city. Given that we are 2 years after release and such a fundamental core feature remains unfixed, there is little faith that the situation is going to improve. After many years of updates and expansions, City Skylines 1 became like an intricate sandwich, layered with possibilities. That's sort of what happens when you have 10 years to just keep adding DLCs to a game. It's so much, that's enough DLCs, I don't have this much money. Obviously, these two games are very different points in their lifespan, but even in spite of this, the stuff that you have in City Skylines 2 just doesn't measure up to any expectations of what there should be. Once you've built a moderately sized city, you might find you've already run out of things to do. There simply is not enough variety to justify continuation, especially now when any ambitious goals in the game would be hampered by increasingly obtrusive performance issues. After returning to the game after 2 years, not much has changed in this regard. I noticed new parking buildings, maybe some new parks as well, and a variety of new roads, but other than that, the game is functionally identical to what we saw on release. So what then? Does City Skylines 2 do well? In spite of all the negatives I've brought forth, all these drawbacks and unfulfilled promises, I've still played this game for a decent chunk of time. What is it drawing me back and keeping me here? Is it just the parking houses? It might just be the parking houses. But the thing that really prevents me going back to Cities 1 are the road tools, because wow, are these amazing in this game, and they still are, and it's just everything feels so smooth and creatively liberating, it just works. Except for those times when it doesn't, but that's usually fixed and it's probably my fault anyway. And what really is also cool about this game, which you can't really get in any other city building game, is the superior sense of scale. Important city-defining buildings such as power plants are massive, the way they should be. In City Skylines 1, you'd have this like tiny little box which would just power the whole city. It doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't really help building a realistic city. In City Skylines 2, you actually need a plan in order to find space for these massive service buildings, and I think that's really cool, and it contributes to making much more realistic cities. So here we are, 2 years from release. How does the future look? The first expansion, much like the console edition, has been delayed indefinitely. This game did not release in a finished state, and the roadmaps of post-release content have been affected because of it. There is still not a clear path to how they intend to fix this game, nor when expansions such as bridges and ports are going to release, besides the 2025 Q4 release window, which is yet to be elaborated on, and considering that we are entering Q4, I'm not super optimistic. Irregardless, I have not given up on City Skylines 2. But at the same time, there is not much to be optimistic about. I believe developers are passionate about this game. What I think happened is a smidge of overambition created these fundamental core issues which could not be fixed in time for release. But if you want to survive as a studio, you need something to show for the time you spent working on the title, and so they released it too early, and these fundamental core issues are still not fixed, but they're still spending the time to fix these things, but it's not that getting fixed so they can't work on new content, and people are angry, and things aren't working. Do I recommend this game? Yes. Yes, I do. In spite of everything that I've said, I do recommend this, albeit at a heavily discounted price. And I don't think that many of the DLCs that have been released already or any future ones should be pre-ordered or anything like that. I do think this is a situation where the developers need to regain the trust of the consumer. I think this is a 2 out of 5 kind of game, which means that it's not necessarily a good game, but it's still a game that you can get a lot of enjoyment out of. And again, not at full price or anything like that, but I do think there's a good game here. I think there's a lot of potential here if they do continue to work on it, but that's very much question mark, and there's no guarantee they're going to be able to fix it or be given the time and resources to fix it. And with that, thank you very much. I haven't made a video like this before. Bit of a new experiment, something I've thought about doing. Consequently, the videos on my channel that are already there are a bit of a different style, which I may keep doing. I may keep doing something like this. I don't know. We'll see. We're gonna find out.